Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as J-Monster. I want to thank you for joining me for another 30s Reforged replay battle. Today I've got something that deviates a little bit from our .97 norm. This is going to be a .97 battle, of course, but it's not going to be a 1v1. Today I've got a 2v2 to show off to you, and it is, if you will excuse the expression, lit as fuck. So without any further ado, let's take a look at some of the army comps here, and then we can jump into the replay itself. Hope you guys enjoy it. The first army we're going to look at today, naturally, is going to be that of the player who sent it in to me. So this is being sent in by Inksets, and he's going to be playing as Harad. He's got some Harad from Spearman out in front here. And actually, just a quick side note before we really get into the meat and potatoes of the army. The Haradrim are being reskinned by our very own, very talented developer, Cowering Coma. So if you guys want to see a little bit about what that is going to look like, I recommend that you check out our mod DB page, because a lot of stuff has been posted there in recent days. In any case, Rod and Spearman here from Inksets, and they're going to be backing up South-run archers, preventing them from being cavalry charged. Also got a couple units of the dismounted Serpent Guard. Doesn't look like they have any armor upgrades. They could very well have their attack upgrade, however. South-run pikemen, Muhad Beast Hunters, these are our javelin unit. We have a unit of the Hashari Stalkers as well, which is a ranger unit, very deadly against large numbers of lightly armored infantry. Haradrim Raiders over here as well, Serpent Guard on the wing. In the center we've got the Black Serpent Bodyguard, which is where the General's Bodyguard is going to be. We got some more Serpent Guard, some Haradrim Raiders, and of course, the Mumakil. Wouldn't be a Haradrim army without them, and Inksets is quite good at using them to pretty devastating effect, assuming that they can't be countered early. Moving on now to his ally, we have the Forces of Dale being commanded by Tundra's Fox. He's brought some Earls of Dale, because of course he has. 2 units of Earls of Dale. The Earls of Dale actually have gotten some decent upgrades in the last little while. I think they got a little bit more defensive capabilities, and now they are, of course, up to 63, or rather 60, since the 3 is the 3 banner carries you can see there, instead of the 50 that they were previously. That's a nice little boost for them. Got some civilians here as well, pretty much trashed here, good for absorbing charges, however. Buying a little bit of time for the rest of your army. Lake Town Spearmen, more Quindy Bows, Daily and Royal Guard, more civilians, Lake Town Spearmen, and some Blackshot Dragon Slayers. I got the feeling we're missing something, and indeed we are. Got some Dalian Marksmen. Actually, now that I think about it, Dale has undergone some pretty significant changes. You see the Dalian Marksmen are down to 140, and that is a recent change. And the Bardian Marksmen are down to 223, but they're actually very strong infantry. At least they are now. Previously they were like medium tier infantry, they were okay. But now I think when fully upgraded like this, they've got about 9 armor and like 10 attacks, so they're kind of like a ranged Serpent Guard in a few ways. But they are quite expensive at 825. But it does give Dale a little bit of extra oomph on their infantry line that they were previously lacking. They had a few units like the Daily or the Earls of Esgaroth, the Barding Herd, you're going to see today, and things like that. But it just kind of expands Dale's infantry roster a little bit in a way that makes sense for Dale. Of course, it is the archers that are being buffed instead of, say, something else like the horsemen. Although the horsemen, as I said, did get a little bit of a buff, but that's mostly for it's a quality of life thing. But yeah, a couple units of Daily Marksmen, 3 units of the Barding Herd on the front lines, and then a second unit here of the Bardian Marksmen. That's going to do it for Dale's army. Let's go ahead and see what the opposite team has brought to the battle today. Across the field from Dale, we have the forces of Dol Amroth being commanded by Lord of Belghast. Now, before we continue with Dol Amroth's army composition, I want to stress something mightily. Dol Amroth has huge changes coming down the pipeline. They are getting an entirely new class of unit. There's a lot of things that are being removed. Some of their archers are being removed, for example. I believe the Blackroot Vale archers, which are previously rangers, and then they were made into stealthy archers, and now they're going to be removed entirely, are going to be replaced with a horse archer unit, a light horse archer unit, which is going to share a model with the Nimrodel Rangers. They're not going to be mounted rangers, however. But they will be very swift, and they'll be pretty decent cavalry as well. And they're going to be part of a new class of unit that Dol Amroth is receiving called the Parathil. Parathil in Elven means half-elven. So Elrond, for example, is half-elven. And we are doing that because there is some lore basis for it. So in the books, I assume many of you have read them, when Legolas sees Prince Imrahil for the first time, he immediately remarks upon the fact that he looks like he has elvish blood in him. So we are taking this concept of the Dol Amroth nobility being descended from elves, because indeed many of them are, and we are adding a brand new class of unit to reflect this. So one of them is going to be heavy infantry, the other is going to be a mounted horse archer unit, but they're going to be quite light. The second is going to be a medium melee cavalry, which is going to replace their merchant cavalry. And there's some other additions as well. A second knight unit is probably the biggest thing. We're going to try and balance that, because I'm sure many of you are squealing either in joy or in horror. We're going to try and balance that by making them a little bit smaller. So both the Haven Guard, or the Haven Knights rather, and the new knight unit, which is called the Arathirum of Dol Amroth, which means Noble Lords in Elvish. They're going to be a little bit smaller to try and balance things out a little bit. And it should focus Dol Amroth a little bit more around their cavalry, and make them kind of the kings of the human cavalry in a lot of ways. I imagine the hierarchy will be something along the lines of KHAND and Dol Amroth maybe tied for first, then Arthedain, and then so on and so forth. So that's some pretty big changes, and it is something we're going to pay a lot of attention to, because a second knight unit is something that has no precedent anywhere else, which is partially the point, because we wanted to do something unique and cool with Dol Amroth and make them not just Gondor's uglier, not uglier, like aesthetically, but you know what I mean, like their awkward younger stepbrother who don't really have the specialization they want them to have. So yeah, that's a big change for them, and then there's a lot of other things that are being removed as well, being replaced with slightly more effective versions of. So the Tornosity Lancers here are one of those units, but I won't bore you with the details any longer. Once Dol Amroth comes out, and once the changes go live on the test build, then I will be able to do a proper expose, but for the time being, you will have to content yourself with what I've given you so far. In any case, Lord of Belegost's army consists of Tornosity Lancers, 1 unit of Haven Guard, 2 units of Belfast Marines, 1 unit here, 1 on the other wing. In the center, we got a couple units of the Tier There Marksmen, a bunch of Adellon Men-at-Arms. Note here, on this build, Men-at-Arms have actually been increased, so I think these units here are going to have about 8 attack and about 10 armor, so they are actually effective mainline infantry units. It does cost a little bit to get them up there, and I think they're a little bit more expensive, so fully upgraded a unit of Adellon Men-at-Arms is probably going to run you about 650, maybe a little bit more, so yeah, something to bear in mind. But in any case, Adellon Men-at-Arms, 1, 2, 3, 4 units of them, and 3 units of the Adellon Halberdiers as well, backed up by a unit of Haven Guard. Very sexy, very deadly. That's a pretty strong infantry corps, though it does certainly lack pikes, which against Dale's, I think Dale had a decent amount of pikes. Maybe they just have a bunch of halberds, so it's going to be interesting to see these two infantry heavy builds go toe-to-toe against one another. Then over here we got some mercenary cavalry. 2 units of the mercenary cavalry, which, as I said, will be replaced with a half-elven unit. I think they're like the Parathil Horse Guard is the name that we currently have for them. Moving on now to his ally, we have KHAND being commanded by DI, King of the North. Now, this is the iteration of the build where KHAND got some pretty serious buffs. And I'm going to talk a little bit about them, so this is going to run a bit longer, so if you guys want to skip this, probably should have said this earlier, but if you want to skip it, of course, timestamps are down in the description, as they always are, and I'll put them in the comments as well. In any case, we've got some nomadic marauders here who've got a little bit of extra armor, and I believe 1 extra point of melee defense, so they're not completely garbage in melee after the fact. They also got 1 extra missile damage, because they are throwing axes, so they've got about 10 missile damage now, which can be quite nice for them. Got a Black Powder Hwacha, which is absolutely a nightmare for Mumakil. It is a super hard counter, as it turns out, but it's not like you just set it and forget it. You can just move the Mumakil. The Hwacha doesn't have a ton of ammunition, so it is kind of a cat and mouse game, but if Black Powder Hwacha manages to connect using its rockets against your Mumakil, then your Mumakil will actually flee, and yeah, they'll flee it like they may not even take a single casualty, but it will spook them so much that they run off the field, and that's like 1,500 or so down the drain for you. I think a little bit more. I think it's more like 2,000 at this point on the build. So yeah, it's a cool little dynamic. The Mumakil have gotten a fair amount stronger since a lot of things have lost fire arrows, and a lot of thrown weapons, that's happened a while ago, but I'll reiterate it here, have also gone away. So like things of the thrown trait, which allowed javelins to instantly give Mumakil, and nobody brought them. So now people bring them, but there are some interesting counters to them that aren't just a single unit type. So melee cavalry, swarms of melee cavalry, we saw it in previous replay, can be good against Mumakil. The Hwacha, there are a few things with thrones still left in the game, and I believe the Rudau or Troll Hunters have also received it. So it makes it kind of cool. I really like the variety of ways that you can counter Mumakil. Spear Cavalry, I think, got a little bit of extra bonus against Mumakil in particular. Yeah, just a lot of ways to deal with Mumakil. But the ways that you go about doing it have changed in some pretty interesting ways. Moving on over here, got some pneumatic light infantry. They have not changed, however, the new run halberds have. You can see that they are at 180. They got a little bit of extra melee defense and attack, so I think they're about 6 attack now and like 4 melee defense. They got a little bit smaller in return, but all around they are a pretty solid halberd unit with their high morale. Nerniac horse archers, a lot of KHAND's horse archer units went up to 82. The idea behind that is, well, 82. That's 80, but I mentioned this earlier, but there are the banner carriers, so I'm just gonna, yeah, you guys know what's going on there. But yes, so all of their horse archers basically went up to 80. And the reason for that being that we want KHAND to specialize in 2 things. 1, their horse archers, and 2, their melee cavalry. So a lot of their melee cavalry, actually all of it pretty well, except for some of the elites, have gone up in size significantly, as have their skirmish cavalries. And their Nerniac horse archers are actually quite deadly. And they have the high trained arrow, which recently got a buff as well. So all those things coming together makes KHAND pretty formidable when it comes to skirmishing. So I think you're going to see a lot of melee cavalry and skirmish heavy armies coming out of KHAND with a solid core of infantry to back them up. That being said, the NOMADS still are not as good as a lot of other infantry, and that's kind of the idea. They will hold for a while with their good defensive stats and their high morale, but don't expect them to carry the day. That is not the point of these units. They are there to hold and to let the cavalry do their job. Anyway, moving on, that's a pneumatic light cap. You can see them at 80, though that was previously the case. NOMAD retainers, up to 75 now. Very, very nice for these guys. Strong melee cavalry with good defensive stats. Nomadic scouts got the same treatment as their dismounted counterparts. They are up to, I believe, 2 armor and 4 melee defense, and they also have an okay bonus versus cavalry. They get about +3 versus cavalry. So they're not completely useless once they run out of ammunition, which is nice. You had Windblades as well. Very sexy, coming out of, I think the movie was entitled Mongol or something like that. And they have carried over their role of lead anti-cavalry units into Reforged, and the second unit here of the NOMAD retainers. And that pretty well does it for DI's army, so let's go ahead and start the replay. Hope you guys enjoy it. So it appears that first blood is going to be drawn between Belagost's Dol Amroth army and the forces of Tundra's Fox just across the way, who is commanding Dale. Both of their skirmishing forces are going at each other. Here with their marksmen, through sheer numbers, they will be whittled down, but this is going to cost the Dalian units a lot of ammunition in order to destroy these units. They are very heavily armored. I believe they have about 11 or 12 armor. Not an easy thing to knock down at range. Moving on over here, you can see DI shifting a lot of his cavalry over to his right wing, and I think the intent here is going to be to move on to Engsfitz? Yes, Engsfitz's left wing, and stand against his Haradrim Raiders, overwhelm his far inferior horse archer units, and then come in from behind and just really pressure his enemy, try and deal as many casualties as he possibly can. The Mumakil are also moving over there as well, so that's something that DI is going to need to be aware of. If those Mumakil get a charge through the horse archers or through any massive anything, it is so devastating. And they cause fear, and the shock of that will potentially cause mass routes, so it is something to kind of play around. Now I'm interested to see what the Black Powder Hwacha is doing, as it is almost certainly within range of the Mumakil. I think the idea here is to wait for them to stop moving, and then unleash hell upon them and instantly rout them. But the Hwacha is pretty slow, and the Mumakil are certainly a lot faster, so it's hard for the Hwacha to shadow the Mumakil. So this is going to be it's going to be a battle of maneuvering in a lot of ways, but hold on, let's go ahead and we'll slow things down here. It looks like there's some action over on the other side. Dol Amroth Mercenary Cavalry and some Earls of Dale charging headlong into some Laketown Spearmen. Not a great exchange there. I'm not too sure what the purpose of that. Did I say Earls of Dale charging into Laketown Spearmen? I'm an idiot. So the Mercenary Cavalry charging into the Earls of Dale, I presume, and the Laketown Spearmen are moving in to try and back them up. And the Earls of Dale actually suffered quite heavily in that exchange, which is very surprising. I believe there was 2 units there of the Mercenary Cavalry. Yeah, it looks like they're both a little bit mauled, so that would certainly explain it. The Earls of Dale are quite good, but they're not going to be able to stand up to being enveloped by 2 fellow melee cav units. I can't believe I thought the Earls of Dale charged into the Laketown Spearmen. Oh, what is wrong with me? Moving on over here, you can see DI's Horse Archers skirting around the left flank here of Engsfitz. Got Got some new retainers in close attendance, and the Serpent Guard are brought forward. The new retainers are going to give them what for. Haradrim Raiders not in the greatest formation here. Certainly the Cantabrian Circle would serve them far better than just being in this large column. That is going to be like shooting fish in a barrel for the elite horse archers of KHAND. You can already see, turn up the speed just a little bit. You can see those Haradrim Raiders are actually going to suffer quite heavily. There's a lot of dead horses on the ground here. A few spears moving in, and this is strangely bold. This is certainly an unexpected move here from DI. You can see them really rushing forward towards these Haradrim Raiders. I think the idea might be to get in there quickly, use the shock of that charge to try and run off the Haradrim Raiders, which is not a bad idea. But this is where it's getting ugly. If you look here, you can see the Mumakil coming in from the rear. Angsvitz is going to use his Haradrim Spearman to try and close the gap. And then the Serpent Guard are coming in against the Horse Archers. The Horse Archers are not bad, and most of the Khandish Horse Archers do have a decent bonus versus cavalry, so they're not going to get the same kind of penalties as other Horse Archers would in a cab-to-cab engagement. But all these things considered together, ooh, that's going to be bad. And those Mumakil are coming right in there. And they're going to get a beautiful charge right through, and that's going to cause a massive rout. This is exactly what I was concerned about earlier. Oh, that's so devastating. It's a lot of money there from DI down the drain. And it seems like the new retainers were trying to get in there to swarm the Mumakil, but with all that routing going on, they actually do lose their nerve, in addition to the fear effect that the Mumakil caused too, which is a significant part of why so many of these horse archers are routing. And it seems like DI's cavalry force has been broken like a rotten stick by a devastating and well-timed charge by those Mumakil, aided by the encirclement that Angsvitz drew his enemy into. So great tactics there on the part of Angsvitz. I can see what DI had in mind, but it honestly didn't end up paying off for him at all, and you could really see the looming shadow of what Angsvitz had planned for his enemy a few miles away. So I'm surprised the DI committed to that. Over here, got some Tarnostian Lancers, ooh, and some Haven Knights in there, fighting against the Earls of Dale. Blackshot Dragon Slayers, firing at those heavily armored Knights. Dale trying to use their skirmish forces to great effect here. Bardian Marksmen as well, supporting their ally. Big Town Spearmen in there. This is a really favorable engagement, but the Dol Amroth Cavalry is somehow managing to inflict serious casualties here. Quite disproportionate to what they've suffered so far. It seems like that's given Belegost a lot of confidence, however. He's going to go for another charge. I might not have done this. I might have cut my losses while I could, and I think the Tarnostian Lancers, not having the greatest morale, aren't going to like being in close quarters with an anti-cavalry and armor-piercing unit like the Barding Herd. Encirclement here, another unit of Earls of Dale coming back. I think this is where the Tarnostian Lancers might end up routing. Ooh, they're getting pulled back in there into a few pathfinding issues as they get caught up on the spear wall formation of the Barding Herd, and that's going to be the end for the Tarnostian Lancers. Routing through the stakes, but strangely enough not dying. Another volley there from the Dalish archers, trying to see these guys off for good. On the upside, at least he uses up a little bit of their ammunition. Now the skirmishing is continuing. Looks like the Tier 3 marksmen are fully out of ammunition. I wonder if they managed to do anything significant. I can see a fair amount of dead Dalian marksmen. Not a whole lot else, though. And maybe some of the dead Bardian marksmen as well. Certainly a unit that you would want to target if you get the opportunity, because of how good they can be in melee afterwards. I'm sure we'll see that in this game as well. One of those Tarnostian Lancers are going to come back. They are routing right through their friends. Maybe. These Tier 3 marksmen still have some ammo. Still exchanging fire with the Dalian skirmishers, but it seems like Dol Amroth has kind of done what they needed to do in terms of the skirmish fight. They've dealt some damage. I'm sure they've soaked up a fair amount of ammunition, especially from some of these Dalian marksmen. At least one of them is now out of ammunition, and as is the second one, so that's a fair amount of the skirmish power from Dale down the drain there, but two-fifths of it. Really, all they have to show for it is a few dead Dol Amroth archers, which is not really what that army is specializing in. Over here, you can see the skirmishing forces of KHAND. It looks like we missed a unit here of nomadic raiders and moved in to challenge the army of the Haradrim, and that's a pretty nasty army for them to have to deal with. Harad is very weak to missiles, and you can see it's starting to take a toll here. Although that Hwacha fallen a bit short and frying some of DI's own units. That's okay though. He's got more where that came from. I think he wanted this to be a little bit more effective than it was. Now, once the Hwacha begins to fire, it can't actually alter its angle, so it's just one big thing. So once it begins to fire, you can actually get under it a little bit, and you can see most of the casualties that were suffered in this exchange were predominantly those of KHAND. Let's see what we got over here. Oh no, nomadic marauders. This is pretty ugly. Nomadic scouts at the mercy of these Mumakil. Look at this. Oh shit, boys, run! As those Mumakil are trying to chase down those nomadic scouts, tossing their throwing axes here. It might actually do a fair amount of damage to the Mumakil, but I think the thing that's going to save them here is this black powder Hwacha, and you can see it already set up as nomadic scouts drawing backwards, and there it goes. It begins to fire into them, and I think this might rout the nomadic scouts, but it is almost certainly going to take out the Mumakil as well. Oh yeah, those Mumakil are taking it right on the chin. Oh, is it working? Oh yeah, that point blank volley there into the Mumakil. It's actually going to rout the full unit, and Fitz will not be getting those back. That is game over for his Mumakil. Over here on the front lines, though, seems the Haradrim are having some success. Serpent Guard, along with some Haradrim Spearmen, leading the way into the skirmishing forces of DI, who doesn't really have an answer to them. Most of his melee cavalry and his other anti-cavalry options are a little bit too far back to defend his advanced companies of skirmishers. So you can see them all beginning to fall back now as it begins to look really ugly for poor DI. Red retainers here, however, if they get into the Serpent Guard, that would suck for the Serpent Guard, although bear in mind there are some Haradrim Spearmen nearby, so that might be favorable for, might be a favorable trait for Harad to try and go for. Murad Warchief retainers, however, they're going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back here, and the Serpent Guard are going to have to beat a hasty retreat, or else risk being utterly destroyed. DI, however, has managed to retreat with most of his skirmishers. Still got some wind blades and stuff like that as well. The pikes, I think, are going to be what give him pause. The pikes and the beast hunters, you can see them already beginning to open up here. I think on probably on the Murad Warchiefs, they're most certainly the biggest threat. Nomadic Raiders have managed to fall back, lost about half the unit. Black Powder Hwacha still kicking, although it looks like maybe they blew up a significant number of their own machines, probably trying to fire the Mumakil. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword there. But the Haradrim charging in, actually getting into the Murad retainers with their spearmen. It's odd for DI to kind of let himself be caught out like this, and I think maybe he's noticed he's going to try and get out of there. Murad retainers are also no joke in melee as well. They can actually hold their own against low-tier spearmen like the Haradrim spearmen, who for some reason are considering routing, and indeed are routing. So that's a nice little break there for DI, and the rest of the Haradrim force is going to follow suit. However, we should jump on over to the other side and see how things are going for Dale here. The Halberdiers and the very, very deadly Dalaramroth men-at-arms are overwhelming the Dalian front line. Those Haven Guard in the center have managed to break through as well, getting into the Lake Town River Patrol, which I did not see because they have a tendency to hide. A second unit of them over there trying to dump their ammunition payload into this exposed blob of Dalaramroth troops, which is a good idea. Dalian marksmen charging in as well. Got some barding herd. I really want to see where the marksmen are, though. That's the thing I'm certainly most curious about. Town Spearmen over here being kind of picked on a bit by the Adelan men-at-arms. Not enough for them really to make a huge difference. Earls of Dale just kind of sitting around here chilling, which is kind of strange to me. Bardian Marksmen in a safe position, able to fire at the Belfalos Marines. The Belfalos Marines, I think, have already used their ammunition. So the damage has been done here, and that's certainly, almost certainly, the reason why Dalaramroth has managed to really stick it to Dale and Tundra Fox's army the way that they have so far. It's either that the valiant men of Dale are being thoroughly overwhelmed on the front lines. Got some Dalian Royal Guard here, which I think I missed as well. More Quindy Bows, so there's still some hope. Got some Bardian Marksmen over here as well, but it looks like Athelian Rangers have come in to tell them exactly what they think about the way that they play with their bows. Although it seems like the Rangers are actually going after the Blackshot Dragon Slayers, which is probably not the greatest thing for them to be doing, but there's only so many targets, I suppose, that Beligos can pick here, and most of them are not exactly ideal. So the Bardian Marksmen, pretty high shield value, good armor, 9 armor in this instance. The Blackshot Dragon Slayers are very heavily armored with 2 HP as well. So I think now the Dalian player, Tundra's Fox, has realized there's a unit of Rangers here on his wing, and that's not what you want at all. So I think the NOMADS Rangers are going to feel the wrath of Dale. You can see the Bardian Marksmen are beginning to open up. Blackshot Dragonslayers as well. Ooh, actually knocking over. Yeah, you can see that. Some of them just not only getting shot, but getting, like, bisected and knocked over at the same time as well. The NOMADS Rangers just dropped from, like, 80 to 67. That's going to be ugly for Lord of Belagost. It may not matter all that much with his Dolaramroth army having broken through. So now Dale's going to have to beat a hasty retreat here with some of their bow units if they want to try and get a little bit more value out of them. Maybe take down as many of these Dolaramroth forces as they can to give their ally a bit of a break. But speaking of their ally, let's pop on over to the other side. How are the Khandish infantry doing? Not great against the Southron pikemen, but that's to be expected. Southron pikemen do outrange the halberds. The rest of their infantry, not doing so great though. Ooh, some nasty hammer and anvil charges here from the Black Serpent Guard. DI trying to get in there with his Nurad War Chiefs, which is probably the only thing keeping these Nurad units still in the fight at this point. Some Harajan Spearmen have come back. Still a lot of cavalry here. Some Serpent Guard kind of just chilling out here. It's odd for Ingsvitz to just kind of leave them there the way that he has. Nomadic Raiders and Variag Bowmen. Much of the Khandish skirmish force is still very much intact. And that's not good for the Haradrim. Mohad Beast Hunters, looks like they're basically full and still have a ton of ammunition being brought to bear, I believe, against the Nurad Halberds. Dismounted Serpent Guard normally would struggle in this kind of fight because of the range of the Halberds and their AP, of course. But yeah, with the aid of the Nurad Beast Tamers, they're going to be able to break through the Nurad Halberds, and it seems like DI's forces are in a lot of trouble. And what do we got here? Serpent Guard going into the Nomadic Marauders. Oh no. This would have been a unit that could have turned this fight around. But unfortunately, they're going to get caught out there by one of the best medium cavalry in the game, Serpent Guard. They hack down most of that unit. Nurad War Chief Retainers trying to get in there. Maybe they'll catch a few of the Serpent Guard, but it won't be enough to deal the death blow that they need to. Over here, Halberds being defeated. Serpent Guard wrapping themselves around the line. Hammer and Anvil charge by the mounted Serpent Guard. It's going to be all she wrote. It looks like KHAND is really suffering over here. But all in all, the percentages are quite even. So it looks like a defeat on one side, and Dolaramroth is winning quite handily on the other. Bardian Marksmen now out of ammunition. They are good, but I don't think they're good enough to deal with this. This is a lot. Many of the Dolaramroth forces have piled into this area, but there is something to consider. Blackshot Dragonslayer still hanging out in the back. Oh, still some Noverdell Rangers. What do you know? But I think there's a unit of Morquendi bows around here and some Dalian Rail Guard as well. So, yeah, the Dalian skirmish forces are poised to deal some serious casualties to the Dolaramroth forces, but I don't think they're going to have the numbers or ammunition needed to destroy them all, because they are in legion at this point. Dolaramroth has broken through Dale with some relatively light casualties, and yeah, Dale's really struggling to try and bring it back. I really want to know what's happening over here, though. This is going to determine what happens, I think, with this fight. Dismounted Serpent Guard getting peppered down by the full might of the remaining Khandish skirmishers. They're going to try and move forward and maybe silence these guys, but there are, of course, the Nurad War Chief Retainers, and that's going to be all that DI needs to destroy this beautiful body here of Serpent Guard. It looks like there's some axe throwers in there as well, some Nomadic Marauders. Are they going to kill anybody? Oh yeah, they are. The Serpent Guard are low on shield value and high on melee defense, so throwing axes in particular can be very, very strong against them. Nurad War Chief Retainers charging in there, routing the Muhad Beast Hunters almost immediately. Serpent Guard are now at a disadvantage. There are some reinforcements coming in, stuff from pikemen, but there's enough skirmishers on DI's side to deal with these units quite handily. I don't think the Southron pikemen are going to be able to accomplish too much. It's hard to tell whose general that is. Right now the generals are all kind of messed up, and they're using like default generic Medieval 2 generals, or they're orcs and commanding Mirkwood elves and things like that. We're aware of it. It's a bug. We'll fix it, don't worry. What do we got over here? Muhad Beast Hunters still have some ammo. Well, what do you know? Over here, Serpent Guard. Very small units of Serpent Guard and some Black Serpents as well. trying to deal with these nomadic raiders. There's of course that one unit that managed to escape earlier. It's been such a problem for DI's army. 36 strong Serpent Guard. Some Neurod Windblades charging in there, but they are so heavily outnumbered, they're not going to be able to really do what they need to do here. Variag Bowman now out of ammunition. They're not great in melee, but they're not awful. And they are reasonably well armored as well, so they should be able to deal with these Muhad Beast Hunters. Although, those Nomadic Marauders, a point-blank volley there into the Beast Hunters might be enough to rout them. Of course, I think this is going to be the end of them with the addition of these Variag Bowmen. Hashari Stalkers charging in as well. Oh, this could be interesting. Hashari Stalkers are pretty few in number. Oh, just see it. Did you guys see that throwing axe just whiz by the camera? Hashari Stalkers, they're good in melee. Variag Bowmen have armor and they have numbers, though. So that's going to be a fairly even fight. Of course, there's still the Neurod War Chief Retainers who are about to join the fray. Let's go ahead and turn it up here. Serpent Guard, ooh, coming in, but they are getting focused down by some of those throwing axes. I think the Nomadic Marauders might finally be out of ammunition. Oh, no, maybe one more. Just one more. Yeah, the Serpent Guard actually took a fair amount of damage there. That's about 11 or so casualties very, very quickly. The Serpent Guard in the center, along with the mounted Hashari, or the dismounted Hashari. Yeah. It's an interesting fight. Should be close. Now that DI is now moving in with everything he's got, but Angsvitz is moving for the encirclement. I think this is going to be the end of KHAND. But with those Neurod War Chief Retainers, they will be able to stand their ground for quite a while. They might be able to inflict some serious casualties on Harad, which then has to deal with the might of Dol Amroth, which is still around. In a fairly big way, they did suffer a lot here. Like, honestly, if you look at this, this is probably where I think Dale killed the most. But Dale is actually a bit split up right now. So got Haven Guard here along with some Adelon Halberdiers, charging down the Blackshot Dragon Slayers, and then they'll be able to move on into the Dalian Royal Guard. And of course, there's still this big old blob of infantry. I don't think the Earls of Dale are going to be able to deal with them. Charging in there is very brave. They'll kill a few of the Belagost, or the Belfalos Marines. Belfalos Marines of Belagost, just to be extra confusing, but they will end up getting routed. Well, that's it for them. I think most of them are going to die in the retreat there. Should be down to about 4. Yep. And now Dol Amroth still has a pretty significant body of infantry. It says the Mumakil have come back and they've reformed, but honestly, they have not. They were routing and now they're dead. The player can't command them. Dalian Royal Guard still doing their thing. Haven Knights and the Prince of Dol Amroth charging in all alone. Ill-advised. I understand the impetus here. Don't want to take any more range damage than what you have to, but it's not a good idea. So it looks like Belagost is going to get out of there as quickly as possible. He's going to charge into the rear of the Blackshot Dragon Slayers. At this point, I would just be trying to keep my general out of range. The Blackshot Dragon Slayers are being overwhelmed anyway. This is just putting your general at risk, I think, and at a time when you don't really need to. And shot from the rear there by the Dalian Royal Guard, going to bring down the Prince of Dol Amroth. That could be a game changer. I know nobody likes kiting tactics, but when you're Dale and this is all you got left, that's kind of what you got to do. Warquendy Bows trying to get away. Well, maybe they're trying to countercharge. I suppose they were almost out of ammunition, otherwise Tartarus Fox might have tried to flee a little bit more. Warquendy Bows, they'll do alright. They are two-handed elven swords. But there's so many of the men of Dol Amroth, they will ultimately be overwhelmed. We're really getting down to it here. So the Haradrim are victorious over KHAND, but nobody really wins in a fight like this, honestly. So I got some Neurod units in there. Southbound Archers and that kind of thing. What he has left, I don't think it's enough to beat Dol Amroth. Maybe, probably not, though with 11 Black Serpent Bodyguards, it's entirely possible. At this late stage in the game, that could be pretty significant. Small units of Cav can be absolutely devastating. And there goes KHAND's general. Ooh, with all those units of Haven Guard, though. Well, let's see what happens to them on the approach here. Dalian Royal Guard could reap a terrible toll. Mark 20 bows, about to be overwhelmed just by sheer numbers. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward here just a little bit. Dalian Royal Guard charging into the Haven Guard, who are still very healthy. And of course they're backed up with a little bit of halberdiers and some marksmen and stuff. 11 Bardian marksmen over here. Yeah, it's kind of annoying, at least for the Dol Amroth player, but it's not that important. Now the Royal Guards will be overwhelmed. And let's see what the Haradrim are going to do. Yeah, there's significantly less of them. Those Nurod's War Chief Retainers really put up a good fight. Now Harad is going to immediately move to attack Dol Amroth, who's going to be a bit vulnerable. Those Lancers, there's no Spearmen here. There's really nothing that they have an answer to. They've lost their Prince, so a few devastating Lancer charges. Oh, like the one we're about to see. Ah, damn you. Damn you, game. Did not want that to be 6 times. I need to turn that off. I see some routing here. A lot of route. Ooh, and a chain route. Ah, that really sucks. A lot of them are very tired. They've lost their Prince. It's a lot to expect them to do. Seems like they're trying to get near the Haven Guard, but the Haven Guard were out of position. Haven Guard do inspire. Yeah, this is a big mistake on the part of Belegost. If he had all of his forces together, I think they'd have been okay. Could have defended himself with his halberds and things like that, which no cavalry unit really wants to charge into. But yeah, he was kind of all over the place. Some of those Othellan men-at-arms are going to reform, but I don't think that Angsfitz is going to give him any respite. And they're going to keep moving this way instead of... Yeah, this is just micro-mistake after micro-mistake on the part of Lord of Belegost, and looks like that's going to be the thing that seals his fate here, ultimately. A lot of these cavalry charges are pretty obviously telegraphed. Yeah, splitting up your forces, not what you want to do. If you're going to keep them in a blob, keep them in a blob. But, yeah, don't... Half measures is not a good thing to do at this late stage of the game. Yeah, so now the constant cycle charging is going to take its toll, because Belegost allowed himself to be defeated in piecemeal. So that's very disappointing for poor Dol Amroth. But again, Dol Amroth is not finished at this point. Very unfortunate, but still a really cool game. So well played to everybody involved. Obviously there were some mistakes, and that's part of the idea behind these videos, is that you can learn a little bit from them. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, everybody. All right, I forgot. Many people like to see this, and there you have it. Haradrim and their statistics. Not bad. Black Serpent Bodyguards did some serious work there. Yeah, the whole Haradrim army just performed really, really well. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time.